Well, 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 well. Hello, everybody. Um, I'm back for the most part. Um, it's time for some disclaimers. You'll probably hear a lisp. Um, that will be because of they're still adjusting things in there, and I will have that for a bit. So I'm still getting used to my smile and to speaking properly with these things in my face. So I apologize for any mispronounced words that you might hear and for any um, crazy sounding words that I might use. So, um, but thank you for the prayers and concern and for you guys hanging out and waiting for me to get back. Much appreciated. Um, the surgery went well. Um, it took 9 hours, a 9-hour surgery. Um, I don't remember anything, which is good. No, they won't be able to say much now, John. They will not be able to say much now. Um, but um, 9 hours, and I'm still healing. There's still a bit of pain from uh, incisions and the implants and all that stuff. So it is a learning curve for me in speaking. Um, I've never had a full mouth of teeth before. So I have to relearn how to speak and how to speak with what I have. So as far as um, how it all took place, it was a pretty God only thing. Um, I still owe a bit on the rest of the payments, so I'll be changing the amount in a GoFundMe um, to the amount that I still have to pay. So for those who still want to help, that'll still be open. It'll still be there for you to give if you feel so inclined. Um, but the big part is done. I can wake up in the morning with no pain. That is huge. I cannot tell you how big that is. That is massive. So again, thank you for all the prayers, for all the concern, everything, for all of it. You guys are amazing. I felt the love. Thank you. I felt the love. Um, and it will not be forgotten at all. It will not be forgotten. So, lots has taken place since I have been on last time. Um, it'll take me a bit to catch up because of how much crap. Oh my goodness, this country is going south bad and quickly because of this guy. So, but today I want to tackle my state in particular. Jay Inslee. Jay Inslee is a piece of work. He's a piece of work. Um, they are enacting a health official law or a code law that was on the book since 03. They're going to start putting it into effect with regards to COVID. So I want to read to you the I can see you. I can see the YouTube comments. Thank you. I can. Um, I want to read to you the actual statements here from these people because I couldn't believe it myself when I read it. So I want to copy this and show you so that I'm not making this up and you know that it's real. It's real, okay? This is WAC 246-100-040. Procedure for isolation and quarantine. I'm going to read this. I'm not adding anything to it, YouTube. I am simply reading WAC 246-100-040. Please, YouTube, understand me. Not my opinion, not misinformation. Code, Washington Code. Okay. Now, here we go. Procedures for isolation and quarantine. I will get into what all this means in a minute, but let's read it first. 1. At his or her sole discretion. That is the person in charge of applying this code. Health officials, someone coming to your place of business, your home, whatever. A local health officer may issue an emergency detention order causing a person or group of persons to be immediately detained for purposes of isolation and quarantine in accordance with subsection 3 of this section, or may petition the Superior Court ex parte for an order to take the person or group of persons into involuntary detention for purposes of isolation or quarantine in accordance with subsection 4 of this section, provided that he or she, A, has made reasonable efforts which shall be documented to obtain voluntary compliance with requests for medical examination, testing, treatment, counseling, vaccination, decontamination of a person or animals, isolation, quarantine, and inspection, and closure of facilities, or has determined in his or her professional judgment that seeking voluntary compliance would create a risk of serious harm. What I want you to understand is how much rights they are taking away. Make sure you listen to what this actually says. Okay? Be sure. Whatever they consider reasonable effort, their discretion. Not what's true, their discretion. Not what's factual, their discretion. Remember, not what's true, their discretion. B, has reason to believe, whatever that reason might be, to believe that the person or group of persons is or is suspected to be infected with, exposed to, or contaminated with a communicable disease or chemical, biological, or radiological agent that could spread or contaminate others if remedial action is not taken. Like I said, let this process. C, has reason to believe that the person or group of persons would pose a serious and imminent risk to the health and safety of others if not detained for purposes of isolation and quarantine. Now, here comes the kicker. Remember, I said this has nothing to do with accuracy, being right, proving anything. This has to do with what they think is right, their view. Two, a local health officer may invoke the powers of police officers, sheriffs, constables, and all other officers and employees of any political subdivisions within the jurisdiction of the health department to enforce immediately orders given to effectuate the purposes of this section in accordance with the provisions of RCW 40.20.050 subsection 4 and 70.05.120. They can invoke the powers of the police. There's more. If a local health officer orders the immediate involuntary detention of a person or group of persons for the purposes of isolation or quarantine, the emergency detention order shall be for a period not to exceed 10 days. They can put you away for 10 days. The local health officer shall issue a written emergency detention order as soon as reasonably possible and in all cases within 12 hours of detention that shall specify the following: the identity of all persons subject to the quarantine, the premises subject to isolation and quarantine, the date and time at which the quarantine and isolation commences, the suspected communicable disease and infectious agent, if known, the measures taken by the official, the basis on which the isolation is justified. But remember, I'm a fan of reading, but remember, it is at the official's own justification, their reasoning, their belief. So anything can be justified because this is based on their belief about what's going on. If they have reason to believe, that is justification. Their reason is justification enough. Their reasoning. It doesn't have to be accurate, doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be proven. It just has to be their reason. It is not new, old soul. This code has been on the book since '03. But they're invoking this rule for COVID mandates because they're now creating camps for isolation and quarantine in Washington state. They're building them. I'll show you those in a minute. But let's keep going. The local health officer shall provide copies of the written emergency detention order to the person or group of persons detained. If the order applies to a group and it is impractical to provide individual copies, post the copies in a conspicuous place on the premises where isolation and quarantine has been imposed. So if they're telling you you're staying home or in that building, they've now branded that building under quarantine. And why? If a health officer petitions the court to get an ex parte order for authorizing the involuntary detention of a group of persons, then the petitions shall specify the identity of all the people, the premises, just like before, the date, the time, what agent they're communicating, what is the infectious disease, anticipated duration of the quarantine, what measures the officer took, what was their basis, and whether it was justified. The exact same thing. All justified by the agent. Remember, if you decide not to get tested by their order and they quarantine you, they don't have to prove that you have anything. They have to say that you do and believe you do, and that's reason enough. Make it make sense. Notice of the person or group of people identified in the petition shall be accomplished in accordance to the rules of civil procedure. The court shall hold a hearing on the petition filed pursuant to the section within 72 hours of filing, excluding Sundays and so on. The court shall issue the order if there is a reasonable basis to find that isolation and quarantine is necessary. And we all know that with COVID, everything is necessary. There will be zero tolerance for COVID. We know that. We've already seen that. So no matter what that agent finds, if they suspect COVID, justified already. And remember, the test can always prove what they want. Always. Specify the maximum duration of the isolation, identify the isolation and quarantine by persons and groups, all of it the same thing as before. Specify factual findings warranting isolation and quarantine pursuant to this section. And remember that their factual statements are what the agent decides. Specify the premises where isolation and quarantine will take place. Be served on all affected persons or groups. A local health officer may petition the Superior Court for an order authorizing the continued isolation or quarantine of a group of people for up to 30 days. So you can't do it but 10 days at a time, up to 10 days. But at the agent's request, they can add up to 30 days. So who specifically gets a hold of the title of local? He is hiring right now. He is literally hiring from California people to come here to be local officials. You see, they will do whatever they have to get whatever result they want. It is that simple. It is that simple. Now, as for the camp, let us look at the camp. King County. They have their own little YouTube channel, by the way. King County. Let's take a listen. It's short. Now, read. King County is setting up sites for people to isolate and recover from COVID-19. You can't do that at home. Listen to their logic. Listen to their logic. And remember what's happening at the border when listening to this logic, okay? Just remember. Mind you, these people building it, no masks. Just a little, no mask. Okay.
The vast majority of people are going to isolate and quarantine in their own home. Some people don't have that choice because they don't have a place to go back to. The hospital
with vulnerable people. Vulnerable. Watch the words they use. It is vital you listen to how and what they say. All these words can be given their own definition. They can be fulfilled however they see fit. If I consider you vulnerable, if I consider that situation vulnerable, or if I don't consider it vulnerable, it has nothing to do with whether or not vulnerable is what it is. It's what they say vulnerable is. Homeless people. When do they go get tested for COVID? What makes a homeless person get up, go to the doctor to get tested for COVID? Of all the things they experience, why would they go get tested for COVID? What is the data that tells them that this is a good idea to build a quarantine place for homeless people that may not have a place to go quarantine? If you don't have a place to go quarantine and you're outside, you've been outside. I'm just trying to make this make sense. You're going to give a homeless person a shelter for 10 days. Okay.
gives us a call, and the hospital says, we've got somebody that doesn't need emergent care, but who we believe should be isolated or quarantined. And then we make a
Hold on. Listen again. Again, YouTube, I am not saying this. an official from King County, Washington, who set up a quarantine camp, is saying this. Listen. Listen to how they figure out who they will put here. Listen. I'm going to turn up the volume as much as I can.
You should be isolated or quarantined. And then we make a decision
Here we go.
that doesn't.
Listen.
The hospital gives us a call, and the hospital says, we've got somebody that doesn't need emergent care, but who we believe should be isolated or quarantined. And then we make a decision.
Did you catch that? One more time.
The hospital gives us a call, and the hospital says, we've got somebody that doesn't need emergent care, but who we believe should be isolated or quarantined. And then we.
Now, maybe it's just me. Does the hospital have the right to call another agency to speak about my medical record? The hospital isn't willing to keep you there. There's no reason for the hospital to keep you. But they believe that you should be in quarantine. So they call another agency to come get you. Why are you discussing my issues with another agency? Is no one else going to ask that question? It's my medical information. The hospital calls these people to tell them about me and their belief that I should be quarantined. There's nothing wrong with me. Again, listen one more time.
The hospital gives us a call, and the hospital says, we've got somebody that doesn't need emergent care, but who we believe should be isolated or quarantined. And then
they don't need emergent care. They don't need emergent care, but they believe that they should be quarantined. But in your statement, you said they're a risk for infecting people, which is why you put them in the camp. But the hospital tells you it's not emergent care, but they believe that they should be put in isolation. So there's nothing wrong with them? No, but we believe that they should be put there anyway. You see the slope that they're building for people to just go, whoop. Glad you did. Do you see the problem with this? You go to the doctor. Nothing emergent, but you're not vaccinated. In their world, that can constitute reasons to be quarantined. Because in their world, you are a risk factor. Let him finish.
And we make a decision about what type of facility is going to be most appropriate for a person, and where we identify that we have a space available, transport them there, and then sustain them once they get there.
The sites will be free, will free up hospitals. You just finished saying okay. You know, they bank on people being dumb. They do. They have to be banking on stupid people. You just said it's not emergent care, so there is no bed that this person is taking up at the hospital. It will not free up any beds because nobody that they're calling about needs a bed. You just said that. You literally just said the hospital calls and says, not emergent, but we believe they need quarantine. Then they're not taking up a bed. Why would you go then and say, well, this site will free up hospital beds? Think. That's their justification. And slow the spread of COVID-19. But they don't have anything. You just believe that they should be quarantined.
As we take a look at what we expect to see at the height of the spread of this disease, we're planning to be able to provide isolation or quarantine for up to 3,000 people in the county. We have a duty and a responsibility at King County to make sure we're providing a facility, a space for folks who don't have a home to go back to. We are all connected by this disease, and we're going to all be connected in the way that we respond to it. Isolation and quarantine facilities are part of our public health response to this emergency.
Safety. It's all about safety, folks. All about safety. One more thing. Now remember that the CDC has said that you can indeed get and transmit this thing still after being HVAC positive, right? Thank you. Yep, exactly. Nothing on their face. You can still get and transmit. Remember that. Put that in your back pocket for a minute. Put that in your back pocket. During the height of 2020, cases everywhere. People that died from COVID, right? Okay. The same board had a meeting, and what they came up with was very interesting, to say the least. Okay, so I'm going to show you this very interesting thing that they came up with. Let's find this thing here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Stop calling me. Da, 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 da. Here you go. Listen again to this. No masks.
Something like this is really going to help us make it realistic for somebody to stay in place, stay in a safe spot, and not need to go out into the rest of the community to find entertainment. So we really appreciate it.
Because they care. They want to make sure you don't go out into the public. You want to make sure that they don't go out into the public with it. All about safety. Okay? Safety. Now, like I was saying, 2020, all kinds of documentation about cases. The idea was that once they got HVAC, things would start to come on down. Unfortunately, listen carefully to this. Again, CDC, and Washington Cooperative Group. Okay, listen.
Right at the beginning, I'm going to come back at the end after Dr. Mitchell speaks. Let me turn it over to Dr. Scott Lindquist, and Scott's going to present some of the data so you have a better feel for what's happening across the state, both in the public health as well as the healthcare system.
Listen.
And then we're going to go through the additional speakers. Scott?
Yeah, thanks. I think the overall summary here is that we are at highest rates that we have been in this pandemic, both in cases and hospitalizations. And
hold on. You're at the highest ever for cases, and yet still you're also at the highest for vaccinations. Okay. Continue.
And we have some statistics we can show you here.
Watch.
Epi curve. So you're looking, what this again is an epidemiologic curve, and you can see the 5 waves that we've had during this pandemic, and the current wave is higher than it's been since the beginning. Now, the good news is we're starting to see some stalling out of this. I'm not sure if this is going to go in a downward direction now. That's really where we're at, wait and see, but it is the first good piece of information.
Wait and see. It's always wait and see. You told us this would bring things down. We realize it's gone up. Hey, it's the highest it's ever been. Ironically, none of it has to do with the HVAC. Ain't that something? None of it has to do with HVAC. How odd. So I decided to look. I decided I was going to take a look and see what they said. So I went to, as we can see, I want people to read that. Okay, what does that say? YouTube, Facebook, all of you. CDC. Not me. I am not giving medical misinformation. I am giving you CDC info. Understand that, please. Okay. When you've been fully vaccinated, the question I typed in was, can you still get? Under that, they said, oh, here, we'll give you this as the answer. This was the answer. They never answered my question, but here. Vaccines are effective at protecting you from getting sick. Okay. That's not okay. Based on what we know about COVID-19 vaccines, people who have been fully vaccinated can do things that they stopped doing because of the pandemic. Based on what you know? It's based on what you did. That's not what you know. You literally took these rights away from us. Had nothing to do with the disease. You took them. You told us we couldn't do this. This has nothing to do with a pandemic. Based on what you know? No, you're allowing people to do certain things because you want them to do it. You want them to take this so you can say, I gave you back your rights. You wanted to take them. Nothing about the pandemic warranted that. You decided to do that. Then you decided, I'll give it back to you if you do this. Don't hand me that BS about what we know. But the recommendations can help you make decisions. Oh, really? I can make a decision? I didn't know I had a choice. About daily activities after you are fully, sorry, after I'm vaccinated, I have choice. They are not intended for healthcare settings. In general, people are considered fully vaccinated after 2 weeks or 2 weeks after their second dose in a set 2-dose series such as the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. 2 weeks after a single dose of Johnson & Johnson's or Janssen's. I'll try, Gabriel. It gets more hilarious. If you don't meet these requirements, regardless of your age, you are not fully vaccinated. Keep taking all precautions until you are fully vaccinated. What are these precautions? Some people in your family need to continue to take steps to protect themselves from COVID-19, including anyone not fully vaccinated, including children under 12 who cannot be vaccinated yet, or people with a weakened immune system, or underlying medical conditions. That's the precaution. Let's continue. If you have a condition and are taking medications that weaken your immune system, you may not be fully protected even if you are fully vaccinated. The thing about it, oh my God. I thought the whole point of it was to boost your system. Boost it. Hey, if it's within 14 days, you weren't fully vaccinated, so anything that happens is not on the vaccine problem. That's you. That's on you, apparently. Let's continue. If you have a condition or are taking medications that weaken your immune system, you may not be fully protected even if you are fully vaccinated and have received an additional even if you're fully vaccinated and boosted, you should continue to take all precautions recommended for unvaccinated people until advised otherwise by your healthcare professional. So hold on. So in that case, if my healthcare provider tells me to not get it, I should listen to them. No, because they're not telling you what we say you should do. Only listen to them if they agree with us. So what can you do? Here comes the kicker. Here comes the kicker. This was the one that floored me, even though I knew it. If you have been fully vaccinated, you can resume activities that you did prior to the pandemic. Now remember, based on what we know, people who have been fully vaccinated can do things they had stopped doing. It's protecting you from getting sick based on what we know. However, if you don't know you have a weakened immune system, that's not on us. You should have known that. But if you have gotten it and you're fully vaccinated, even though you can be fully vaccinated and have a weakened system, and you should, but I digress. You can do these things. Now, before I read this, remember that they said that even though you are vaccinated, continue to wear the mask, continue to social distance. That's what the recommendation is now. Please remember, I'm not making that up. Someone in the audience, please reinforce. Did they not say that? Is that not what's going now? Am I wrong? Before I continue reading, am I wrong? Isn't that what they're saying, right? Keep wearing the mask. I'll wait for a response. Okay, good. At least one person knows. So let's go. To reduce the risk of being infected with the Delta variant and possibly spreading it to others, wear a mask indoors if you are in an area of substantial or high transmission. The vaccines are effective to protecting you from getting sick. Fully vaccinated. To reduce the risk of being infected. Fully vaccinated. Fully vaccinated. Still getting sick. No. You might choose to wear a mask regardless of the level of transmission if you have a weakened immune system. Or if because of your age and an underlying medical condition you are at risk for severe disease, or if a member of your household has a weakened immune. What? Okay, hold on. You might choose. I know I'm doing some medication right now and for pain, but I don't believe that medication is making me unable to process simple things. I'm going to read it again, and I want people. You might choose to wear a mask regardless of the level of transmission if you have a weakened immune system, or if because of your age and an underlying medical condition, but you said that this is most effective for the elderly. Because of your age, you are at increased risk for severe disease. But this is for the betterment of the elderly and those at severe risk. Or so you can wear a mask if a member of your household has a weakened immune system, is at increased risk for severe disease, or is unvaccinated. But if immune system is weak, then you're not fully protected even though you're vaccinated. So the masks aren't really helping because you have a weakened immune system. So if the vaccine doesn't even help you, how are the how, Mm. You see the problem? I see the problem. Here is the real fun part, and we'll end after this. If you travel in the United States, you don't need to get tested before or after travel or self-quarantine after travel. You need to pay close attention to the situation at an international destination before traveling outside the States. You do not need to get tested before leaving the United States unless your destination requires it. You still need to show a negative test result or documentation of recovery from COVID-19 before boarding an international flight to the United States. You should still get tested 3 to 5 days after international travel. You do not need to self-quarantine after arriving in the United States. But in Washington State, whatever they deem quarantinable is quarantinable. However, after giving all that information and saying that you can still get it, you don't need to self-quarantine after arriving in the United States, even though you may come from a place that has a high risk. And sometimes 3 to 5 days later, you might show a COVID positive, even though it's a negative when you arrived, but you don't need to self-quarantine, but you can still transmit it. So if you don't self-quarantine and you do have it 3 to 5 days later, you can give it to people, and that's okay. That's okay. 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 That's okay. I can't make this up. I really cannot make this up. I can't. Wow. Wow. Wear a mask over your nose and mouth is required on planes, buses, public transportation, traveling into, within, or out of the United States. While indoors, the U.S. transportation hubs seen, such as airports and stations, travelers are not required to wear a mask in outdoor areas of a conveyance like an open deck. If you've had close contact with someone with COVID-19, you should get tested 5 to 7 days after your exposure, even if you don't have symptoms. Vaccines continue to reduce a person's risk of contracting the virus that cause COVID-19. What? What? Did I read wrong again? Vaccines continue to reduce a person's risk of contracting the virus that cause COVID-19. Vaccines continue to reduce a person's risk of contracting the virus that cause COVID-19. So COVID-19 is not the virus? There's a virus that causes COVID-19? Okay. I cannot make this make sense even if I tried. And I have tried. I really have. I've tried. I have tried. I'm going to share the link for those who can see it. It'll pop up in the Facebook. It'll pop up in YouTube. It should populate in the Twitch as well. If you can see it, feel free to go to the GoFundMe site and do whatever you feel motivated to do. Like I said, I'll be adjusting the issue here and adjusting the amount. Okay, but there's still a balance that needs to be taken care of, and I would appreciate any and all assistance with that. It's good to be back. It feels really good. I'm glad that you guys waited. I really do appreciate that. I'll be back on Sunday with Simon, but I will also be back tomorrow with my own live, and I'll be talking about that school shooting. But I have a myriad of stories to catch up on. A myriad of things. Way too much. But I'll get to them all. I will get them all. Like I said, feel free. Share that GoFundMe link. You guys are what makes this possible to begin with anyway. I am going to go take my medication now because this is the most I've spoken since having my surgery. It was a good test, but I can feel once I start feeling, it's just a matter of time before it starts telling me, shut up. So I'm going to go take my medication and calm down for the rest of the night. But I am so happy to be back. And this was a great practice run for me in speaking. It feels good. Even though it's not very clear for my liking. It might be for you, but to my liking, it's not. I love you guys really, really genuinely from the bottom of my heart. And I will make sure that I don't waste this opportunity with this new smile and new ability to eat again. I will be making a really good substantial push to make sure my website takes off because the things I have to tackle, YouTube will not let me. And we need to get info out. Thank you all again. Remember, it'll be up until we hit our goal. I'll have to get in hold of the person that created the GoFundMe to change the amount. So I'll do that. And we will go from there. I love you guys again. Have a great rest of the night. Hopefully today's Friday. It'll be around 1 or 2 o'clock tomorrow that I'm back on, and we'll talk about this school shooter and everything that's going on with that. And as I always say, and will continue to say, wisdom calls to you from the street. Find wisdom. Find wisdom. Love you guys and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the night. If you don't see me this weekend, this is all possible thanks to you. You all have a good night. Peace.